can we ever really say justice was served? When something like mental health plays a part in these awful tragedies?
Right, right. It really makes you think, doesn't it? And that's what we're going to try to unpack today as we take a deep dive into that shooting at the King Soopers in Boulder back in 2021.
One of those things where, like, everyone remembers where they were when it happened,
Oh, absolutely. It was just so shocking. And I think it's important that we look beyond just the headlines and really think about those 10 lives that were lost.
Yeah, and what their families, their friends, everyone who knew them went through. It's a lot to process.
It really is. And the case, the trial just wrapped up, so it's back in the news.
So we've been going through a ton of stuff. We've got all the news reports, obviously, the court transcripts too.
Those are always fascinating.
Yeah, especially when they release the full transcripts, not just the little snippets they use on the news. And then I found myself kind of going down a bit of a rabbit hole on social media, just kind of seeing what I could find out about the victims.
Yeah, it's important to remember, these were real people just living their lives, not just names in a report, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, where do we even begin with all this?
Well, I think it's helpful to start by going back to the beginning. So March 22nd, 2021.
Just a normal day for most people.
Yeah, totally. An ordinary day at that King Soopers in Boulder, Colorado. People going about their grocery shopping, just a normal day. And then suddenly, gunfire.
And in an instant, everything changes.
10 lives just gone.
It's tough even just reading through the list of names. Nevin Stanisic, Trolona Barkowiak, Denny Stong. It hits you differently when you actually say their names out loud,
It does. It makes it real. And it's not just the number 10. It's 10 individual stories, 10 families whose lives were completely upended.
And such a range of ages, too. The youngest victim, just 20 years old, just starting their life, and then the oldest, 65. It really shows, it could happen to anyone.
Absolutely. And we have to remember Officer Eric Talley, too.
Yeah, he rushed to the scene, doing his job, trying to protect people, and he became the 10th victim.
That kind of selflessness is just incredible to me.
I was reading about Denny Stong, one of the victims. He actually tried to stop the shooter. He ended up saving lives, but lost his own in the process.
It's heartbreaking.
It really is.
Yeah.
But it also kind of speaks to, the kind of community Boulder is. That instinct to protect each other, even in the face of something so terrifying.
Right, and we see that spirit in the aftermath, too, how the entire community came together to support the families, the vigils, the tributes, everything. It was clear this wasn't just a loss for the families directly affected, but for the entire community.
And I think it went beyond Boulder, too. The whole country was watching this story unfold.
Absolutely. And then just this past week, the trial finally ended. The shooter, Ahmad Alissa, was found guilty on all counts. I can't imagine what it must have been like for the families in the courtroom, to finally hear that verdict.
Yeah, I'm sure there were a lot of mixed emotions. Relief, maybe some anger, sadness.
Of course. And I think it brings up a lot of difficult questions, too. The defense argued that Alissa was insane. They were using his schizophrenia diagnosis as part of their argument. And it just makes this whole thing so much more complicated.
So the insanity defense, I've always found that to be a really fascinating aspect of the law. Because it's not something that comes up very often, but when it does, it really makes you think.
It does, because in order to be found legally insane, you basically have to prove that the defendant wasn't able to understand that what they were doing was wrong at the time of the crime. And that's incredibly hard to prove.
So in this case, the defense would have to convince the jury that because of Alissa's schizophrenia, he literally couldn't tell right from wrong when he was committing these horrific acts.
Exactly. And it's not just about having a diagnosis. It's about showing that the mental illness directly prevented them from understanding the consequences of their actions. And in this case, the jury deliberated for 6 hours?
Yeah, just 6 hours. Which, when you think about the weight of what they had to decide.
That's a very short deliberation time.
Makes you wonder, was justice really served? Even if he was found guilty, is that really enough? Is it even possible to find true justice when mental illness is a factor?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, I don't think there are any easy answers. It really challenges us to look at how our legal system handles cases like this,
And beyond the legal system, it makes you think about, society as a whole, right? How are we supporting people with mental illness? Is it enough? What can we do better?
Exactly. And that's something we all need to grapple with, because this isn't just about one case, one tragedy. This is a much bigger issue.
So for everyone listening out there, I guess my final thought would be, what can we each do as individuals to be a part of the solution?
Mhm.
How can we create communities where people feel supported, where they feel like they can ask for help before they reach a breaking point?
It's about having those uncomfortable conversations, you know? It's about pushing for better mental health resources, for more understanding, for compassion. That's the only way things are going to change.
Well said. Well said.